Alrighty, so we got a rematch here. Jimmie Rivera versus Pedro Munhoz. So Pedro, he's got 2 losses in a row now. I'm not too concerned about his position in the company because he was just a main event headline. But still, it's never good to get 3 losses in a row, especially in the UFC. Tends to be one of the guidelines for cutting fighters if they hit 3 L's in a row. But I'm not too concerned about his position. He always puts on entertaining fights, and he was just a headliner, so yeah. But still, never good to get 3 L's in a row. It's probably weighing on him right now. So Jimmie Rivera got the upper hand about 5 years ago. Obviously, they've changed a lot as fighters since then, but still, psychologically at the back of their heads, they both know Jimmie Rivera did get the win about 5 years ago. So Jimmie Rivera tends to go to decision. I think 8 of his last 9 have gone to decision. On the other hand, Pedro Munhoz, all of his losses have come by decision. He's gone to decision 7 times in his career and only won 2 of them. So just a little worrying there with someone who tends to go to decision, such as Jimmie Rivera. Alright, we'll break down the striking of these two. So we know Pedro Munhoz utilizes that high guard, comes forward with a high pressure game plan, looks to press you onto the fence, keep you behind the 2 octagon lines. He'll look to cut off the cage and then land that left hook. He closes distance, tries to land left, right hook, just rips to the body, just short, tight punches when he's in boxing range. His boxing defense overall is pretty good, apart, from the fact that he doesn't move his head off center line pretty much ever. But for the most part, his head movement, his slips, his parries are actually pretty decent. And he doesn't take a lot of these shots clean, just because he has that high guard. But, straight punches is a little bit susceptible to that. So what we're looking at here, Jimmie Rivera, he has a nice counter 2, which is something that could give Pedro Munhoz's guard problems if he is able to split it, because he'll use that counter 2 when his opponent's being a little aggressive. He'll kind of step back, kind of walk the opponent onto his counter 2. That's one of his favorite punches. For Jimmie, another thing Jimmie Rivera does, he'll end a lot of his combinations with a left hook. So that was something that Frankie Edgar was landing on him pretty much at will. And yeah, so that's just something he's got to watch out for, especially those orthodox fighters. He tends to let a lot of that left-hand offense get through the guard. But yeah, for Jimmie Rivera, he keeps a wide base. He has that kind of karate type of stance, even though he doesn't throw too many kicks. But that kind of style just leaves him prone to leg kicks, as he's so heavy on the lead leg and he's very immobile. And we know Pedro is going to come in with that leg kick heavy game plan, so it's just something Jimmie has to watch out for in this one. And also Pedro can mix it up. So another thing Jimmie does is that when he's trying to avoid a right overhand or a straight right of an opponent, he'll lean pretty far to his right, which leaves him open for a head kick. Because his head is just at his head's just at a lower level as it normally is. So that kind of just, it's just closer to his opponent's legs, pretty much is why people attempt it on him. I think that was how Marlon Moraes caught him. I'm pretty sure it wasn't set up though. So, but still, he gets caught. I think someone caught him by a head kick after he was dipping to the right. Can't remember which one it was though. Did tape for this one quite a while ago, probably a month ago, so I can't really remember. But yeah. So another thing Jimmie Rivera does, he keeps his lead hand really low. It just leaves him a little bit open to hooks, which is something that Munhoz will be bringing into this one in spades. But it's just how he tends to get dropped. He gets caught with hooks in close where he has that lead hand low. So that's pretty much what lost him the Peter Yan fight, and also the biggest piece of success that Pedro had in their first fight was that he caught him with that left hook. I'm pretty sure it was, or a right hook. It was a hook, and it was just because Jimmie found himself in range with his lead hand low. And Jimmie can back up to the fence at times. When he does back up to the fence, so pretty much when he's about a step away from the fence and he can't retreat any further. He's not really looking for offense. Well, he's not really looking for anything else, sorry. I worded that terribly, but he's not looking for anything else besides a counter, pretty much. So he's biding his time. He's not thinking about throwing a combination. He's thinking about throwing a hard two, and just trying to get his opponent off him, pretty much. Because yeah, he in a few of his fights, he has backed up right to the fence, and he looks for that big shot just to get his opponent off him, pretty much. It's just like that caged panther thing. You know, when you back them into a corner, they're going to have to lash out because they feel like they're trapped. For Pedro Munhoz, another thing he does is that he bites on feints really hard. Jimmie Rivera would do well to employ a lot of feints into this fight. Feints and variety seem to freeze Pedro up a little bit. Like you saw that in the Aljo fight. Aljo was doing all this weird shit and feinting a lot, and Pedro was just kind of looking at him, kind of confused, and had trouble closing the distance in that one. And in the grappling for this one, so Pedro doesn't use his BJJ that much, but he does have elite Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He'll use that guillotine trap when opponents do shoot on him, which is quite rare, but he's got a really nice guillotine trap that he uses. If he were to try and attempt his own offense to take it to the mat, he tends to use a single leg and runs the pipe with that, but generally he doesn't shoot for his own takedowns that often. For Jimmie Rivera, just excellent takedown defense, one of the best in the division, if not the UFC. He's got a really low center of gravity. He pretty much just like capitalizes on that as well when he lowers or widens his base, especially on the fence. So you know, he generally has a low center of gravity, but then he lowers his base even further, and it's just really hard to get him down. He's just very immobile in that position. So if he tries to get to the fight to the ground, he will use a double leg, and then if his opponent turtles, he'll use a wrestling ride from there just to control him on the fence, but, you know, I don't see him doing that in this one. How these guys win, we'll stay with Jimmie Rivera. So he's really good when he lets his hands go. Sometimes he can be a little too passive. He's got good recovery. I wouldn't say his chin's the best, but he has good recovery, shown ability to recover really quick in fights and get back on the horse. But yeah, even so, just a knockdown pretty much gives away the round. Like, it's hard to score a round for you once you've been knocked down. So it's just, yeah, it's generally how he loses, just that chin. And yeah, fantastic takedown defense. We talked about it. Fast hands, really good technical boxing. For Pedro Munhoz, his constant forward pressure tends to break opponents. He can take the damage that's coming back as well, because his style is very predictable, comes, you know, pretty much walks on the punches, but his chin is just, he's been able to take it so far in his career. Just a real solid chin. He's got good volume with the leg kicks. I really like the leg kicks that he throws. Good volume on his jab, keeps the volume up. He's got good cardio. He's got good takedown defense himself. Both these guys really solid fighters. How these guys lose, we'll stay with Pedro. So he's usually on the wrong end of the speed equation. He's generally giving up the speed. He's quite slow for bantamweight, in my opinion. Especially when he has to face a fast, heavy, or a fast counter-heavy type of opponent, such as like John Dodson, Cody Garbrandt, or Jimmie Rivera. Like, they tend to get the best of him on the feet, just because, yeah, they're just quicker to the punch than he is. Yeah, he's also very hittable. Head doesn't move off center line, especially to straight punches. He's got predictable movement, as we just talked about, and generally he fights in one way, and he doesn't tend to have a plan B or go to his wrestling once he's outmatched on the feet. Or go to his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I should probably say, once he's outmatched on the feet. For Jimmie Rivera, he can be controlled on the fence for long periods of time, just tends to be too passive there. If that or his escapes need work, but he just seems to be a little too passive and lets the fight come to him, in my opinion. That'd be one of my criticisms on Jimmie. But yeah, he's been very risk adverse since his Marlon Moraes KO. To me, in my opinion, he's been very kind of passive, and he's been, getting in pretty close fights. So he probably doesn't want to do that with a guy who's going to push the pace like Pedro Munhoz. It's not a time to be passive. It's it's a time to make. Pedro will make you make decisions, so he better sort that out quick. Also, he can get pushed back to the fence fairly easily. Accepts the back foot fairly often. Pretty much feints, any feints, jabs, someone's cutting angles, he just tends to back straight up into the fence. So that's something Pedro will definitely be looking at. Alright, past the victory for Jimmie, we'll go with Pedro Munhoz. So yeah, as I said before, leg kicks, big part of the plan. Teeps, jabs, feint, continue to apply pressure, so just kind of keep touching him, keep pushing him back. Pretty much feints, keep him on the back foot. Try and tag him once he backs up straight to the fence. So that's what Jimmie, what's his name, Peter Yan was doing to him. So Peter Yan was backing him up to the fence with feints, and then Jimmie would pretty much be backed up to the fence looking to counter. Peter Yan started to feint. Jimmie had his back straight up to the fence, and Jimmie Yan would just sting him with a straight punch. As Jimmie has pretty much nowhere to move with his upper body or his head, because he's right against the fence. So that's something Peter Yan's really good at. If you want to take a page out of his book, then by all means, because I feel like it'll work on Jimmie Rivera. Also, just suffocating pressure, just as you normally do. Just make it ugly, make it kind of, get in his face, get him on the back foot, just really make it ugly for him. For Jimmie Rivera, past the victory, just throw some feints just to slow down that forward pressure of Munhoz. So just try and keep him at bay with some feints, try and keep it at distance, try and make it like just like a kickboxing type range. Also, if he's going to keep his guard up the whole time, just, work the body, throw some rips. Obviously, watch out for that returning left hook to the chin. But yeah, just smart. Just attack the body in your combinations, but just be smart with it. If you feel like you're on the back foot and you're getting close to the fence, just throw your combinations and then angle out. Because Pedro, he does keep that high guard. A certain amount of his vision is impaired when he keeps that high guard up, and that's something John Dodson was really good at exploiting, was hitting him a few times and then kind of angling out, kind of like Lomachenko does, angling out and getting right behind Munhoz just before he could realize that his opponent is not in front of him anymore. And I don't feel like I need to say this, but just don't brawl. He obviously has the better chin. Not a good idea to brawl. If he's going to start leg kicking you, you need to address it quick. If you are unable to check it, or you can't get the timing right on the checks, then just throw a hard straight right, just to kind of get that respect, trying to get something back so he just doesn't keep just kicking your lead leg. In my opinion, I wouldn't go for any takedowns if I was Jimmie Rivera, just because that guillotine threat, and also Jimmie's blast double, his head isn't right next to his opponent's body, so there is a little room for Pedro to slip in that guillotine. Also in the first fight, Jimmie hit I think he hit him with a good shot in the first or maybe second round, and he went for the finish really hard. Just don't bother. He's so tough. Like he's so hard to put down, Pedro Munhoz. Just be smart, just be smart if you hurt him. Don't blow your gasket going for the finish, because I believe he did that in the first fight and he slowed down a little bit in the third round. So just, stay cool. Just stick to your normal game plan, even if you hurt him. Maybe throw on some leg kicks. Just be smart once you have him hurt. Don't go crazy. Alright, so stay away from the fence. Throw some of your own leg kicks just to, actually maybe don't. Don't throw any leg kicks, because you'll just return with some and it'll turn into a leg kicking war. And Pedro Munhoz, he's very boxing heavy as well, so he's very heavy on the lead leg, but if you start kicking his leg, it's going to turn to a leg kicking war, which I'm pretty sure you don't want to get into. But how I see this fight going, I think this fight will go similar to the first encounter that they had. I think Jimmie will just be too slick with the counters, solid enough defensively to win the 3 rounds. Probably around 30-27, maybe even a 29-28. But I think Pedro will have his moments, but most of the fight, I believe Jimmie will just be a bit too slick. And yeah, just landing a bit more, the better shots. Also, just fighting smart and, yeah. I think, yeah, Jimmie knows how to win a decision a little bit more than Pedro as well. He seems to, well, Pedro, they don't seem to love his style. Maybe it's the leg kicks, they don't value it enough, but he tends to lose these close fights by decision. So yeah, we'll get to the betting lines. Alright, so the prediction is Jimmie Rivera to win by decision. I think he wins this fight around 65 to 70% of the time. So in my opinion, he's probably value at this price right now. But I'm waiting for it just to go up a little bit, maybe like 170, 175. Kind of hoping it gets closer to evens, but I'm not expecting it to. But I'm pretty happy with 170, to be honest. But yeah, I don't think he's gonna finish Pedro. Just Pedro's so hard to finish. Like, he's not knocking him out. He's probably not subbing him. So I think Jimmie Rivera by decision is probably going to happen. I was kind of hoping the line would be a little bit higher than $2.15, but $2.15 I think is decent enough value. Like, you're getting dog odds on something that I believe is going to happen around 60% of the time. So yeah, I think that's value still. I think I got it at $2.25, something like that. But in my opinion, $2.15 still playable. And if you want to just mitigate your risk a little bit, put some on the money line, because the money line's decent enough, and then put some on the decision line.